I played rugby back in high school. These are the shorts I wore, not the jersey. This is my state's team that I go and watch. But yeah, they're a bit tight, but still fit, decent enough, you know. Still got the skills. You know, it is what it is.
Next on MLR Weekly, Washington owner Paul Dunlavey, a stunning announcement from New York star number 7, Brendon O'Connor, an exclusive with Old Glory's New Zealand All Black 7-star Kurt Baker, opinion and predictions from Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News, headlines with John Fitzpatrick of Rugby Morning, and the best damn recap in rugby. Rugby Wrap-Ups MLR Weekly brought to you by Sheehy Auto Stores. It's easy at Sheehy. The Pig and Whistle, New York City, the world's best rugby pub. And Lean and Limber, stretching your way to a healthier lifestyle. Welcome to MLR Weekly, as presented by Rugby Wrap-Up. Matt McCarthy in New York City. Thank you for joining us. We have a great show, including co-owner of Old Glory DC, Chris Dunlavey. We have exclusives with Old Glory star fullback and All Black Sevens legend, Mr. Kurt Baker. And we have Brendon O'Connor, one of the best forwards in the league for Rugby New York, pitch side, with a pretty big announcement. We also have Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News with opinions/previews. We have the best recap in rugby. But before we get to any of that, we have our recurring segment, Rugby Morning's Coffee Break with MLR News and Headlines with Mr. John Fitzpatrick. John, welcome. How are you? What's with the hat, guy?
Well, Matt, it's your birthday week, so I figured we'd celebrate it by wearing the cap of your favorite baseball team, the New York Yankees.
Well, how about we celebrate by burning the hat on camera because I'm a New York Mets fan. Next!
Matt, I am still blown away by the Eliminator round in Major League Rugby. Let's start in the Western Conference, where the Seattle Seawolves took down the visiting Houston SaberCats. But there was a little bit of some disagreement going on with some injury replacements going on with the Houston lineup. Matt, what do you think was going on there?
Well, I think we got. I don't want to call full shenanigans, but I would say that there's manipulation of the the hard deadline. That's AKA hard deadline of trades and player moves, personnel moves. I mean, this is. If it's not the last week of the regular season, it's the first week of the postseason, and they're making moves. I don't know. There's got to be some reason or whatever that I'm not privy to, but we've got to tighten up the loopholes a little bit. Next,
let's talk USA International Danny Barrett and the career that he has had in Major League Rugby. There's some speculation that this could be his last go in Major League Rugby. He did take that conversion kick at the end of the game when Houston scored there. He did not make it. He's not part of the USA Men's Eagles player pool for 2023. So if this is the last we've seen of Danny Barrett on American rugby pitch, hats off to you, buddy. You've had a stellar career.
If that's the case, then we're missing out, because Danny Barrett left every ounce of his being on the pitch whenever he was on the pitch, whether it was 7s or 15s. And what a player in both codes. Just a remarkable player, a great guy on and off the pitch. His kick, it was kind of like Matt Truville.
What does that mean?
Next!
Matt, since we're talking about New York and you like to make fun of my accent here, I got to put on a Baltimore Orioles cap for you to stay with the AL East theme. But let's talk about that New York Ironworkers Old Glory DC game. Matt, trivia question for you. What is the only franchise in Major League Rugby history to be undefeated in the postseason?
Well, I can tell you it's not Matt Truville, A. B, that hat, it looks like a duck, not an Oriole. And C, I will say, Old Glory DC, baby.
How about that win? Certainly an impressive win for Old Glory to go up on the road and knock off New York there. Matt, a very interesting game from an officiating point of view. Both teams were down 2 players at 2 different times in the game. Both battled back all the way to the end. Matt, you were there. What did you think?
I thought it was a great event for the league. Obviously, the New York guys are gutted. Old Glory, and I'm going to beat this dead horse. I keep saying they are the Rocky Balboa of the MLR season. But what an historic, great win for Old Glory DC. Next!
Matt, for the Eastern Conference Final, will we see an upset? Will Old Glory DC pull another Rocky Balboa and take down the big Russian, that is the Canadian New England Free Jacks?
Nobody owed nobody nothing. Next!
Matt, that's all I've got. I'm looking forward to the conference finals in Major League Rugby. It's going to be a Donnybrook.
And I'm just going to say this. I think Seattle comes out of the West, and I think New England holds on against a very pesky, gritty Old Glory DC. John Fitzpatrick, thank you once again for your Rugby Mornings Kobe break. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, we are not going to take a break, but we're going to look back before we look forward with our recap right now. In Seattle, the Houston SaberCats were looking to claw the Seawolves and were tooth and nail with Rocky's charges, earning a decided edge in lineouts and restarts. But the familiar 8-9 combo of Hadding and Smith was back together, and both found their way into the try-zone for the home team. AJ Alatimu was kicking up a storm and 430 meters, while Charles Elton John led all tacklers with 13. Houston's legendary USA Rugby star Danny Barrett left us all with raised eyebrows with a kick at the posts. Not something you see every day. Seattle holds off Houston 37-26. The Battle of New York between visiting Old Glory DC and the hometown Ironworkers was fought in the trenches, and the war was won up front. The team from the nation's capital held a 12-4 advantage in scrums in a match that saw a handful of disallowed tries, 4 yellow cards, and 26 penalties. It was the hungry DC team that held the edge in tries, though, 4-3, and they came in a variety of ways with a penalty try to each team. DC's last trip across the whitewash was as dramatic as they get and proved to be the nail in the coffin after New York was driving deep in Old Glory territory, fighting for the go-ahead score late in the match. Washington played a determined and cohesive match, while New York fought bravely but could not overcome their feisty rival. Dylan the Butcher Fawcett scored 3 tries in the loss. Final score, 37-33. Let's take a break.
Need a great price on a new vehicle? Sheehy makes it easy. Easy Price shows you our lowest prices on the Mid-Atlantic's largest selection. Find your best price online or at any of our 31 dealerships.
It's easy at Sheehy. Sheehy.com.
You need your cleats? You need them tomorrow? If you order today by 3 p.m. New York time or noon LA time, they can have them to you tomorrow. Young, old, male, female, if you're playing on turf, if you're playing on grass, if you're playing in the rain, you're playing in the heat, they've got you covered. RugbyNow.com. Go there now.
If you're in New York City and want to watch some great rugby, have some great food, and some great times, go to the world's best rugby pub, the Pig and Whistle on West 36th Street.
And now for breaking news with New York star Brendon O'Connor.
Brendon O'Connor, number 7 for New York. Absolutely one of the better players in the league. It's got to be disappointing for you. What's going through your head right now?
Yeah, obviously real disappointment. It's been a tough season for us. Tough in the middle phase, and we sort of got things running near the end. But, mate, well done to DC. Coming off last season, they've been a different beast this year, and they've earned every win they got this year. So, yeah, sad way to end, but it is what it is.
You've been around the block and back, playing professionally across this globe. The MLR is still in its infancy stages. What do you like about the league?
Oh, mate, it's growing every year. I remember watching the league before I came over, and the growth from the 2 years I've been here has been massive. So I hope it continues to grow. I hope they continue to get numbers to games and viewership, and if anywhere's gonna take off, it's gonna be over here, and it'll be massive.
What's going on for you in the off season?
Not too sure yet. Gonna head home. I think that might be me done with rugby, so head home, see family, catch off a lot of friends, and then go from there.
You're considering hanging up the cleats?
Yeah, I think it is time. Getting a bit old, so.
Well, let me be the first to say that if you do that, you have been a true warrior and a joy to watch on the pitch, sir.
Thank you very much. Love my time here in New York. It's a hell of a city to live in, and this team has one of the best cultures I've ever been involved in. So definitely going to miss it, but all good things come to an end. So
well, it's a hell of a town, and you are a hell of a player, and you made it happen here, sir. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back, and we have the pleasure of welcoming in a beaming co-owner of Washington's Old Glory DC after a huge playoff win in New York. Chris, you're still smiling. How are you?
I'll be smiling all week, man. It's first playoff game in the history of the club, and we go in there in New York's house, take it to them hard, and fortunately come out at the right end of the WL column. We're couldn't be more excited to be where we are, particularly after a long effort over the last year to really redirect our team and to see some results like this. Are just it's a phenomenal feeling. You got to be worried about New England. New England's the real deal. Very talented, very well coached. Really built a strong roster this year and went about their business the right way. We had two really tough games against them. One at their house, we took it to them pretty well and had a shot at pulling it out at the end and just fell short. And then they really did a dance on us when they came down to DC later in the season. So they're a tough team. You got to take them for real, and of course we're at a disadvantage having to play away on the road during the playoffs. But we're gonna go in there and do what we can.
Well, you guys seem to feed off the energy of the crowd in New York. Maybe that was a big lesson learned for you guys. Maybe you guys will go up there and feed off that crowd because it's a great crowd up there.
Yeah, fantastic.
Unless you're the opposition.
That's right. Yeah, I wouldn't say they're a very polite and friendly crowd, but they're definitely a great crowd. And New England just really does have a great stadium atmosphere. The way they do a game day presentation and the way the whole event comes together and the way they build around the rugby community to create something that's more diverse, it's really attractive to people who may be there to enjoy the beer and the music as much as the rugby game itself. So we're looking forward to having a good time up there, however the rugby game seems to go.
You guys announced some more partners coming in. Tell us about them.
There are three new investors we just announced, and of course we have a long-standing ownership group that includes not only Paul and myself, but the Scottish Rugby Union, Ulysses Holdings as a passive investor, and now a gentleman named Pablo Calderini, who was introduced to us by our GM for Business Affairs, Marcelo Blanco. They're both Argentine and worked together previously at Deutsche Bank. And Pablo's something of a finance whiz to keep his resume short, and also a passionate rugby guy, as so many Argentines are. Then we also have Paxton Baker, who among his credentials, he's a former BET executive. He was the president for live events for BET for a number of years early in his career, but more recently has served as the chair of the Washington Nationals baseball team's minority investors group. The Lerner family owns the Nationals, but they have a pretty large panel of minority investors, and Paxton chairs that group, as well as having been an investor in our NWSL team, the Washington Spirit, a local professional tennis team, the Washington Castles. So this guy knows his stuff in live entertainment. And as a result of that, Paxton in turn introduced us to a gentleman named Verdine White. And not everybody recognizes that name the first time I mention it, but when I mention he's a founding member and bass player for Earth, Wind, and Fire, the Earth, Wind, and Fire, their eyebrows go up a little. So, and Verdine's a blast. He's very excited to be getting involved in rugby. He didn't know anything about it before Paxton turned him on to it, but is really getting excited about being involved with MLR and where we're taking Old Glory. So these guys are definitely introducing some fun to what we're all about at Old Glory.
Phil Groves, one of the owners of the Chicago Hounds, was on here last week after I had to have him on after he took his shirt off down in Dallas and twirled it around.
Yeah.
When are you going to be doing that? And B, I also asked him, and watch the way I tie this in here, about the potential unionization thing from players.
So I am never, ever going to take off my shirt in a public setting where I can be filmed. I even in my youth, I was not a male model, and nobody needs to be seeing me running around shirtless.
A man of discretion.
Yeah, least of all the MLR fans. And as regards to the players union, I think the players are going to engage in their vote and make their decision. I think generally speaking, I'm a pro-union kind of person generally, and I think there is definitely going to be a right time for MLR to have a union. I don't think that time is yet for a number of reasons. But I think within at least our team, within Old Glory, we're having some pretty healthy discussions back and forth, and I think the players are very well educated about what the opportunity is that's presented and what its limitations are. And we'll see how they feel. We'll see how they vote on the matter.
All right, Mr. Chris Dunlavey, go up and flip those flapjackles for us.
We're going to do our best. It's a tough call, but we're going to do our best.
No, it's been a great year. You guys have been just the Rocky Balboa of MLR, right?
Thank you. It's been a big turnaround since this time last year, and we're definitely excited about where we're going.
All right, buddy. Thanks for your time. Much appreciated. Mr. Chris Dunlavey of Old Glory, DC.
Always good to talk to you, man.
This is the Rugby Odds, where an unlikely pundit panel of a wordsmith, a WWE legend, a rugby star, and a supermodel scour the globe, seeking best bets and bad behavior. Are you not entertained?
Kurt, huge victory on the road for the team. How are you feeling, and what is going on in your head?
We're just excited, man. I think it's no secret that our organisation really struggled last year, so to be in a playoff for the Eastern Conference is pretty exciting. So yeah, boys are stoked, really.
Kurt, it's been a surprise season. I mean, this is your first here in DC, right? Big transition for you coming from overseas. 7-star with the All Blacks. Now you're playing 15s in a full season, a long season. What was the transition like?
I'm probably lucky. I've played a lot of 15s in New Zealand, so yeah, I'm seen as a 7s player, but I've also played a lot of 15s over the years, so it took a while to get back used to it. It's probably more time on your feet. We're usually running a 14-minute game, so 80 minutes is a bit of a stretch, but it's just been so far been an awesome year. I think our group's really grown, which is exciting.
So I guess the question should have been, because it wasn't your first rodeo playing 15s, but it was your first rodeo playing 15s in the United States, which is a massive geographical country. What was it like bouncing around, flights and all that?
To be fair, I missed a lot of the away trips through injury, or I went home for the birth of our wee boy, so I missed a few of the big ones, which might have been good for my lower back and hamstring. So hopefully I'm back another year and can get some of that travel in.
So this was the worst interview you've had in a long time, because the guy asking the questions got all the questions wrong.
Nah, you're good, man. We're just happy we got another week under our belt.
All right, cheers, brother.
Awesome, man.
And we are back with a gloating with good reason, Mr. Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News. Bryan, take a bow. You picked Old Glory.
Yeah, but, I also picked Houston, so we'll call it even.
So I picked New York and I picked Seattle. So I feel your pain. But comments on the two matches.
Houston. 20 minutes they had the ball in Seattle's end and 0 points. That's
Amazing.
pretty much why they lost the game.
Seawall, baby, the seawall.
Yeah, you got to give credit to Seattle's defense. They certainly did not make it easy, but, bad mistakes at bad times cost Houston really badly. A couple terrible kick return, restarts. They couldn't gather. One that Futi got, another one that Den Hoot dropped, and a silly penalty by Redling Ice cost them 7 points. Just bad mistakes at key moments. And unfortunately, I just think that they probably should have changed the game plan a little earlier and gone with giving David Kutzer a chance to make some plays. They didn't, kind of stuck too long to the box kick thing. Well, they'll just have to take some lessons. But got to credit Seattle. They took all their opportunities. Every time they got close, they got points on the board. So well done to them, and looking forward to this next one they got in the other game in the East. Wow, another thriller. First half, it kind of looked like New York was kind of grinding them down. Old Glory looked a little bit stunned, but you got to give them credit. Whatever they said at halftime, and really about 10 minutes into that second half is when they started to click. New York scored, but Old Glory just stepped it up, and they just turned it on. That last half hour, they were outstanding.
What did you think of the officiating?
I thought the officiating was decent in both games. There was one call in that New York game that probably everybody knows what I'm talking about. It was a try that was scored that was clearly not a try. We'll leave it at that. I thought that was very poor from the TMO. It's when the TMOs make mistakes on obvious calls that you really get frustrated. And we saw that in one of the games, and that's really not acceptable at this kind of level.
So I was at the game just listening to the home crowd. Let the official know what their opinion was, right? But it was a good crowd, a great crowd, great win for Old Glory. And I think it's great for the league that they won this game.
Yeah, absolutely. First playoff game too, and they got it done. So, everything here I think is a bonus for them. They did well, even just to kind of, they got in with a losing record. That doesn't happen a lot in any league, but I think they deserve the win, and you got to be happy for them.
Chris Dunlavey said, co-owner of Old Glory DC, he said, we're playing with house money right now, which, that's a great position to be in if you're a professional sports franchise playing with house money in the playoffs. And how about that Kurt Baker? Kurt Baker is a player to watch in this postseason.
Yeah, a player to watch. I wish he would be a little bit more classy in a situation like that. We've seen him do that his whole career. I'm not a fan of that kind of stuff. Great player. He's had a fantastic career in New Zealand Sevens, played in Italy for a bit. I just wish he would just get that out of the game.
But some of these players need that to keep going. They need that.
I've heard that excuse. It's not for me. It's not for me. You can score the try, you can celebrate, you can jump around with your teammates, but to do that taunting stuff to Tucker, I thought was uncalled for.
Listen, you'd love him on the Arrows. Don't even say that you wouldn't. Okay.
To be honest, no.
All right. Whatever. Next round. What do you think?
Well, Seattle, San Diego, I think would probably expect it. Well, I picked Houston, but I think a lot of people would have expected this to be, the Western Conference final. These have been the two best teams over the course of the season. San Diego's just, obviously, they're riding this ridiculous winning streak in this one. They haven't lost a single game at home. Seattle, they rested all their bodies in that final. You look at that result, it's completely meaningless. It was a totally different Seattle side than what we're going to see. So we have to look back if we want to compare it to that other game where they played at Starfire, and it was a 3-point game. And Seattle very easily could have won that. That was a couple controversial calls, and that was very, very tight. So I think maybe we'll see something closer to that at Snapdragon. But Snapdragon, remember, is a bigger pitch. It's a full-size pitch. It's a little bit wider than Starfire. That certainly plays into San Diego's strength. They like to move the ball around. But Seattle's also an attacking side.
They're going to love the wider field, that back line.
Yeah, Futi certainly is that's right up his alley as well. So that makes it really interesting, kind of almost to similar sides. Is the rest going to hurt San Diego at all? I don't think so. I think they'll be okay. What's their team? One thing we have to talk about, they're not going to have their captain. Blair Cowan has been suspended. He's not going to be available for any of the playoffs, so that's a blow for them. But in terms of quality, when you can pull up, Michael Smith, who was their player of the year last year, they've still got Christian Poitevin, they've still got, all these guys they can slot in there. Dan Pryor. They're not going to miss a beat, really. So they got lots of talent. It'll be interesting to see who San Diego picks at 10. They've kind of had Burton, they've had Henderson, they've had Hooley over the course of the season. Again,
who do you pick?
I don't know. Probably Hooley. I just think maybe I love his tactical kicking game. Burton also has a strong kicking game, but I think Hooley just seems to show a little bit more command in a game where, especially in a playoff game where you want to kind of control field position. I think Hooley's probably the guy in that one. And certainly he wants to go out in a high at the end of his career. And, Seattle are going to be really interesting. They're going to want to front up against, one thing that we've noticed this year, not a lot of people have really put pressure on that San Diego pack. I mean, really ground into them and tried to put them on the back foot. They've defended well this year, but I'm not sure people have really tried to take that to them. So I'm interested to see what Alan Clark comes up with. It's going to be a great game. Really looking forward to this one. If I have to pick, I'm probably going to have to go with San Diego, though. I mean, guys are unbeaten in forever.
Well, I'm going to go the opposite of you. I think Seattle's going to win. Then we have that other match, as I've been calling Old Glory DC, the Rocky Balboas of the MLR 2023 campaign. They're going up to New England, playing with house money. What do you think's going to happen there?
Yeah, that's a nice, it's a good feeling, as Mr. Dunlavey says, for them. No pressure on them. Nobody expects them to win. They'll be heavy underdogs going against a team, another one on a huge winning streak, pretty much cleaned up the East Division this year, playing at home where they're unbeaten as well.
But as an honorary member of Flapjack Nation, you can't really be objective about this match.
It's tough. But look, Old Glory, you look at the first match, and in that one, New England almost lost because their discipline was terrible. And that's been kind of their one main weakness this year, is that they have a tendency to take some silly penalties at times, and that can get them into trouble. So they need to certainly avoid that. If we look at the second match, I kind of am leaning towards that being where this one is going to go, where an exciting match. They both play good rugby, but New England just a little bit faster on the attack. They're recycling the system that they play. They're just a bit more drilled, and they're all on the same page. I just think that they have a little bit deeper, more depth on the bench as well. Patras is going to be fit for this one. He's so good at fly half. Even Waka, I'm not sure, he's got some bruised ribs, but even if it doesn't play, it doesn't matter. They got Reese McDonald who can play 15. He's been tremendous all season.
They're a deep team.
Yeah, I mean, they just have so many good players on that team. I just think they're just a step above Old Glory. I think it's going to be close. I'm not sure New England will run away with this one. Old Glory is going to be fired up. Maybe in the last 15 minutes, maybe New England kind of takes away, but I see this as being very competitive. But I do think New England is so strong. I just think they're going to be too much for Old Glory on this occasion.
I tell you what, I think Old Glory may have learned a lot, and they've learned a lot about themselves on the road, specifically in this second half of the season. This is a different team that went up to Quincy earlier in the year. They're playing again with that house money thing, as cliche as that sounds, but they're also playing cohesive rugby, which is pretty impressive. All right, you take a bow, sir, for all the hard work that you put in during the season. And on that note, I want to thank you, Mr. Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News. Thank you to John Fitzpatrick of Rugby Mornings Coffee Break. Thank you to Mr. Chris Dunlavey, co-owner of Old Glory DC. And thank you for tuning in. Please check out our other shows, including the critically acclaimed The Rugby Odds, College Rugby Wrap-Up, and hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Sign up for our weekly newsletter, and please join our American Red Cross Blood Donor Team.